If you're a wedding photographer and you're not offering wedding albums, you're missing out quite a lot. If you are a bride and a groom, if you're a newlyweds and you're not ordered your wedding album, you're missing out a lot actually as well. And in this video, I'll explain you why is that. My name is Sergey and I'm the owner of Sergey Green Studio. We provide photography and videography services here in Los Angeles since 2011. And we've delivered quite a lot of this album. So let me talk you through the topic of significance and the value of this album. Well, first of all, when my bride's receiving this album, they naturally stop looking at the online gallery. And the reason is very, very simple. In online gallery, you have thousands, sometimes more photos, and everything is there. Yes, sometimes you would go there to take a look at the photos of your guest or the family members, but most of the time when you would want to look at your wedding photos, you're going to open the album. The best 10% of your photos are going to be here. Another thing, when you're going to see the quality of the printing of this album, you'll see that the screen cannot show you that amount of colors and shades in the album. And the other thing is just simply the size. Well, in today's world, most of the time we're looking at the photos from our phone. And over here, you can compare the size of the phone to the album. And that's pretty big phone, actually. If you compare it to the normal phone, that's what, like 5%, something like that. So you're missing out quite a lot of colors and you're missing out quite a lot in size too. And also this is the completely different representation over here of your photos. Another thing, this album going to be in a visible place somewhere in your apartment or the house. So your friends going to look at it, your parents going to look at it. Actually, quite often I'm ordering a copy for the parents as well. So 3 albums going towards my couple in that case. And the other very significant thing is that your future kids going to look at this album. And what I like to say, and I'm not exaggerating this, is that when you receive in the album itself, the value of it is actually pretty close to the price you paid. So it's not that high. The true value and the true significance of this album would come with the years, 5-10 years from now. And you can very easily relate to that, actually. You can take a look at your photos, which is like 10 years old or something, and you will see how valuable they are. Although on those photos could be a simple moments, like, I don't know, maybe you stand in the Grand Canyon or something like that, or with your friends, and you just looking how different you are right now. And the value increases even further with years. Also, you can easily relate to that if you're looking at the film photos that your parents took when you were little. Same thing here. The value of this album right now is not very high, really. It's going to be very significant in 10, 15, 20 years from now. The other thing I love to think is that this album going to stay next to your parents' album and hopefully next to your grandparents' album. So it would naturally become the part of the history of the family. And when I do this album and when I do wedding photography in general, I like to think about it that all over Los Angeles, I have close to 500 albums like that laying there. And already by now, because all of my couples who got married in 2012, 2013, something like that, they have, lots of them have kids. And their kids, I'm pretty sure they looked through this albums. And I want to picture that and I want to see that. And I want you to feel as well the significance of this album when you picture this scenery. And for my colleagues, for wedding photographers out there, I want you to think about all of it as well. And I also want you to think that this is the best representation of your work. And I don't want you to think about it, at least that's what I would suggest. I don't want you to think about it as something that you can make extra money on. Yes, you can make 5, 10, 15,000 a year on top from the albums. But that's not where your vision should be. You need to look further. Again, go to my previous reference that all of these albums are somewhere out there on the coffee tables or in the shelves, and people looking through them. So in our specific case, we started wedding photography here in Los Angeles since 2011. It's 2023 right now. 12 years, 40, 50 albums on average we deliver every year. Somewhere around 500 albums is out there in Los Angeles, and people constantly looking at them. Friends and family would come over and go through all of them, and some of them would ask, who did these photos, who did this beautiful album? And that's your advertising. It's basically your free advertising. That's your passive income, I would have to say. That's the advertising you don't have to pay for. Yes, you spend it once, and that's pretty much it. And these clients are very special because they've seen your work, they've seen your albums, they already pretty much set on you, and that's much more significant than making extra money on the album itself. Of course, it does not hurt, but I want you to have a further vision. I want you to focus on the bigger goal in that specific case. So now when we determined the value of the wedding album for both for bride and the groom and for the photographer, let's talk about an important things and how to make a perfect album. Well, now when we know our goal, that we want the album to last, we want to focus on the quality of the album specifically. We want to focus on the physical properties of the album, and we want to focus on the design aspect of the album. What do I mean by the physical property of the albums? Well, you want to make sure that you have the best available printing out there. You want to really invest into the silk paper. Don't even think about the glossy one because it's going to leave the fingerprints. You want to make sure that the lab calibrated their printers perfectly, and you're gonna get the exact colors that you see on your monitor. You want to make sure that this lab been long enough. They know what they're doing. Their album's not going to fall apart. You want to choose the most expensive cover out there. That's what it is. That's the premium leather. That's a natural one. If you're not into natural leather for some reason, there's a pretty good fabric option as well. But what you want to get the best out there. Yes, I could have downgraded, and probably most of the clients would not really notice that because they don't really have something in front of them to compare. But again, that's not the case. We want our albums to last, and we want our future clients to be impressed. So let's say they would want to one place, to one house, and they would look at the album from, let's not name the company, from the few companies, and then they would come and see our albums, and right away they will see the difference, even in the simple things like a cover like that. So what you want to do, you want to find the best lab out there, first of all. How do you do that? Well, you can simply go through the reviews, through the forums, suggestions, this kind of stuff. If you're lucky enough, like we are here in Los Angeles, you can go to Annual Expo in Las Vegas or any other place, and you can go through from one lab to another, just physically take a look at their albums. And what I like to do, I like asking for like the dirtiest, oldest album they have. It's probably not even on a display. What you want to see the album that have been looked through 1,000 times, and which is like 4 or 5 years old. That way you can make sure that this album is actually going to last. Because I had a couple of accidents like that actually with the previous lab, where I would order the album it would look absolutely nice and good, and then a year or 2 years after, it would start falling apart on my client's shelf. Of course, the lab would tell me that, oh, they did not store it properly or anything like that. The client doesn't have to know how to store your album properly or anything like that. They are the client, they are right, so they can store it as they want it, and your goal is make sure that this album is not going to fall apart. There's books in the museums that are 1,000 years old, and you saying that your album is falling apart in a year. That's really not right. From the design point of view, what you want to do, you want to keep it simple and classic, and you want to keep it as the storytelling book. And what do I mean by that? And you're actually going to change your shooting perspective. You're going to change your style as well when you start making the album. Let's talk about the scenery first of all. What you want to think, when you're creating the spread like that, you want to think like, okay, what am I doing right now? I'm doing the getting ready shots of the bride, right? That's what it is. That's her with her bridesmaids and the robes with the dress and things like that. So what am I doing next? I'm putting the dress on. That's what you use in your next spread. Don't mix it. It's going to look awkward most of the time. When you're making the small albums like that, take less photos, but make sure they are matching each other by the topic as well. There's a spread of the bride when she's getting ready. All of her little details, all the jewelry, rings on her, everything. That's the beginning of the day. That is very important. Everything you can find, the ring, the little pieces of the dress, like everything. Think from that perspective. Same for the groom. I know there's 4 spreads for the bride and there's probably 1 for the groom, but that's the way it is. But still, such a good portrait of the bride. Same the next spread, the first look, and so forth and so on. You got the point. Another spread of the bride, of course. It's all about the bride. Same for the group shots. There is a page for the girls, there is a page for the entire wedding party, and so on. You also want to make sure that you have the separate spread for details. And when I'm saying that you're going to change your perspective, you're going to be thinking like, okay, I need to take photos of details. Do I have enough photos for one spread? You don't know yet what kind of album your client's going to order. They might order 10 by 10, 12 by 12, 16 by 12 maybe, and they might order 60 spreads. You need to have enough material in order to put together a beautiful album. In terms of the design, my preference, just to keep it as simple as possible. There should be no additional frame, no additional spec effect or anything like that. Even if the lab offer them, it's going to look awkward in 10 years from now. You don't really want to do that. Another thing, you want to keep the colors sort of the same. Do not mix and match photos from the different locations with the different lighting. It's not going to look good as well. And another thing that you want to do, of course, after you put together the ceremony like that, you want to make sure that you have a couple of spreads like that, where you have one single photo on the entire spread. And again, coming back to the size of the photo, that's your phone. Again, that's your normal size of the phone. I'm bragging about my phone. And you can see the difference. There is no way you can compare that. Even if you have the nice display or screen or anything like that, there is realistically no way you're going to be sitting and looking through all of them. If you have the album, that's what you're going to be looking at. So, and we went actually through half of the album. That's how you make this album beautifully last for 10, 20, 30 years. You keep it very simple in terms of the design, And in terms of the quality, you just really searching for the best out there. You're not really looking at the prices. Again, if you want to make as much profit as possible, I would probably go the different way. But what you want to do, you want to advertise yourself. You want to place your work out there in front of the client in the best way possible. Another thing you might ask is that, what if my bride and groom haven't ordered the album? Well, include it in the package, as simple as that. For example, in my specific case, the most common packages for me is 8 hours and 10 hours of coverage. And with 8 hours of coverage, I have this 8x8 album, and 99% of the time, my couples would upgrade it to 10x10. That's why there are 3 of them out there. But some couples would prefer to keep it simple like that, like 8x8. It's pretty good too. It's large enough for a small wedding. And it's actually, in this specific case, it's even funny enough that on the screen you cannot really see all of these colors, but in printing, easily, no problem with that. For Indian weddings, I highly recommend the album. You cannot go without it, really. But most of the clients would upgrade albums from 8x8 to 10x10 over here. And the one that I hold it before, this is the 12x12. This one. This is a 12x12 album. I think I covered everything that I wanted in this specific video. There's another video that you should look. I'll link it below. And I'm going to do overview of each of these albums, and I'm going to do the overview of the cover of the specific albums, just to show you on the video what it is. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know if you have any other questions, and maybe you have suggestions too. I'm pretty sure you have. If you're a wedding photographer, as I am, please write them in the comment. That is very important for me. Thank you again so much for watching, and see you in the next video.